Welcome back to Life with Angela. My name is Angela Erickson, and I can't wait to talk to you about all the current life issues that we have going on. It's going to be a wild ride today because we're going to hit that third rail. We're going to talk about some things that I have not yet addressed on this show. So that being said, let's get started with our first story today. So you're going to see some similarities here between this week and last week, but I'm going to highlight different things. So let's get started. We have a deeply disturbing story from Tacoma, Washington, and it reveals a dark reality that I don't think a whole lot of people want to acknowledge about men forcing abortions on unwilling women. So what was the crime? We have a former nurse practitioner, thank goodness for that, Benjamin Kutz, who was working through the multi-care health system in Tacoma, Washington, and he prescribed abortion pills to his girlfriend without her consent and administered them to her without her knowledge. What ended up happening, here's kind of the long story. So Benjamin Kutz, he gets a referral, essentially. The victim is a referral. She heard great things about him, decides to start seeing him for some of her healthcare needs, and he begins to groom her and take advantage of her, even going so far as to attempt to force himself on her during his appointments with her. But it must have developed into some sort of weird abusive relationship. Now, Ben, of course, is a married man with 5 children. And so when he discovered that the victim was pregnant, he wanted to eliminate the evidence. He wanted to get rid of the child. And so what he did was he got the abortion pills. He slipped the first one, which is the one that cuts off the increase in progesterone in the body. And he administered that to her in her coffee. And then later, when they were together, he administered the second pill inside of her without her knowledge or consent. And of course, she ends up going to the hospital, bleeding, and not knowing what's going on here, and realizes what has been done to her. Now, Benjamin Kutz's wife gets involved because she's trying to protect the reputation of her husband and her family. She starts tampering with evidence too and trying to buy off the victim. All these things, trying to do things that would prevent her from speaking the truth about this man who is a predator, who's like a monster in their community. And instead of letting people know, she does the opposite thing and tries to hush the victim. Now, that made me start thinking about this question of how many women are statistically being coerced into abortions. Because yes, there are plenty of women who are going out having abortions because they feel quote unquote empowered to do it. But even for a lot of those women who say that that's a big reason why they're choosing abortion, I wonder if there aren't any other factors. How many women feel on some level they're being pressured into an abortion? So I found this 2023 peer-reviewed study that was published in Curis. I don't know if I said that right, but it's co-authored by researchers from the Charlotte Lozier Institute, a really great research arm. And they surveyed over 1,000 women who had had abortions and found that nearly 70%, according to this study, reported feeling pressure on some level from partners or family members into having their abortions. And this brings me to my point. Men are using abortion. I'm calling Dr. Kutz Dr. Evil, but Dr. Evil and the likes are using abortion to cover up their crimes, right? And when we have made it so accessible, we're going to see an increase, especially in a perverted society like ours that is so porn-addled. We're going to see an increase in statutory rape. We're going to see an increase in incest and things like that because those are all perversions, right? And we have things, pornography use is at an all-time high, and these things are related. They are corresponding to one another. And so what do we do to stop the bleeding? No pun intended. It's like, what are we doing to this man? This is the craziest part. He only got a year in prison for this. What is going to deter any man from that? A lot of men would probably say, yeah, I'd suffer a year in prison than a lifetime or 18 years of child support. What? A year in prison for doing this to a woman, for endangering her life and killing her child? That's it? And what happens for all these other abusive men who are like, yeah, I'd do that. I bet there are men out there who would say that. I would do that. So what do we do to help prevent this kind of stuff? And we have to look on a political level. We have to look at a cultural level, heart to heart. It's a multifaceted issue. How do we address this problem? Especially at a time when the current dynamic around or discussion around abortion it's so polarized right now. It's so polarized. Our politics are so polarized. And even though at the core abortion is a human rights issue, the way we manage it is politically. And so that brings me to the first story for my segment on lifelines. We're looking at Susan B. Anthony list. They have announced that they're going to be investing $80 million into the midterm elections. Now, why is this important? Well, because we're losing a lot of ground in certain Democrat areas, districts, things like that on the abortion issue. And the thing is that you're trying to get Democrats who are already pretty left-leaning, they're wanting to bring in the mushy middle Democrats. And the thing is that I am concerned about is that the mushy middle Democrats aren't going to necessarily give on abortion. I think that the current issue is actually going to be immigration. That's my take. I think that Susan B. Anthony lists, they're not going to get the ground that they want on the abortion issue. People are pretty decided on the abortion issue. Not only that, but this administration has done a lot of harm to its own pro-life cred by making IVF more accessible, by making abortion pills more accessible. So what are we going to do about that? They want to get the mushy middle Democrat voters, and what they're trying to do is frame this as like, we got to fight the extreme abortion agenda for all trimester abortions, because more people are starting to see how extreme third trimester abortions are, but a lot of people are in denial in general that they even exist or that they even happen. And so I just don't see this as being a winning move for Susan B. Anthony, especially with the pro-life frustration coming towards the Trump administration with all the things that have happened in the first year of Donald Trump's second term. So I'm wondering, like, can we win through politics alone? No, I think the answer is that we actually can't, especially not in the current climate when people on the left won't even talk to people on the right. And this isn't, again, it's not a right or left issue, but unfortunately, the Republican Party is the party of the pro-life movement. We could talk about whether or not they really want to end abortion or if they want to use it as a key issue to keep voters and pretend that they continue to fight. That there's an argument to be made for that. I know Abby Johnson has been arguing that too lately, which is really interesting. But what happens when politicians abandon principle for polls? I mean, is this going to really help Susan B. Anthony? Is Susan B. Anthony's $80 million really going to be a help when the Trump administration is undermining the pro-life movement almost every other week at this point? So if you want to hear the rest of this episode, and as I get ready to touch that third rail, you're going to have to join me on Pelican Plus for my exclusive show here, Life with Angela. You should get the app and get a membership. Use the promo code LIFE and let them know that I sent you, and you'll get a discount. And then you'll have access to everything on the app. So I'll see you over on the other side. Now, for those of you who already are members on Pelican Plus, thank you so much for building up this community. We have so many great things in store for you. We're adding new people all the time, like Charles Colomb just was added, and so you'll be able to find his stuff there, and there's just plenty more to dig into. So let's move on. So while SBA List is trying to invest in changing people's minds on the abortion issue and bring in more voters, we have the Satanic Temple finally losing in court for this religious freedom case that they had sued Idaho for. So a federal judge just ruled on one of the most revealing lawsuits in the post-Dobbs decision.